Hello, this is Dr. Mike. This is from my CIS 264U2 students, and this is a look at um, exploiting physical and social vulnerabilities, which is topic 11 of our class. So topic 11, we are looking at the chapter 8 of the textbook, which at this time, of course, is the Pen Test Plus study guide at the time of this recording. I realize that may change, of course, if we ever get new textbooks. And we're looking at pen testing, physical and social vulnerabilities. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'll say off the bat, let's break this thing down here before we go into the slides. I'm not going to, of course, go to the textbook here. We'll look at the review. We'll look at the summary later here. Make sure we cover most of the stuff. But one of the biggest things we want to do here, of course, is really dictate our statement of work here. Very important. Now, if we are looking at, it's a web-based, maybe a red team attack, only no in-person work, then we cut out a lot of course, physical aspects. Right about here, if we have a physical aspect, which could be include, which will include a site visit, and that physical aspect could be a site visit, and in there you might just get some inside access, do some recon. Look for things like easy people keep, if they have badges, can they walk in without a badge being shown or scan a badge? Can you just sort of make your way in? If you get to the point where you're doing intrusions, like trying to pick locks after hours work, you really need to have this clearly stated. In fact, I would have a professional firm, like a law firm. You need something really clear here, because there's been, it's pretty rare you do this. Probably the closest thing you'll have will be a site visit, and we'll call it in person. So, but we'll say if you have an intrusion aspect of this, it sort of sits right here. You can do some recon, you can be in person. You got to have this thing clearly staked out. You need to have contacts. There's already been articles posted about 2 pen testers that pen tested a county law firm of county facility, and of course they tried tripping in and tripped the alarm, and the state police, they had a record for the state police to look at, like a form, and then we're gonna let them go. Then the sheriff showed up, and the sheriff didn't let take any of that, threw him in jail anyway. So if you're curious, I'll put that, we'll definitely share that in class. But if it's actual intrusion, we need to make that clear here. That's a different ball game. But for in person though, still want to have it in your statement of work. And part of this in-person visit could be looking at social engineering. What information can I gather just by seeing the company? The coming and goings, how's it going? Who's at the front desk? Can you talk to them? Are you going to become someone else? Are you going to try to come in and become, act like a customer, or act like a client, prospective client, let's say? Or are you just going to be, this is Dr. Mike, I'm here to do my in-person security assessment. So if it's more the latter, where it's more of a security assessment, then it's pretty easy. You come on in, take a look at the security, and be aware that you might not be a physical security specialist. And be sure that's laid out clearly in your contract, because you definitely have to be an expert at physical security. You might actually recommend a physical security company do an assessment on the physical end. But when you come in though, within person, you might go ahead and be able to get scan the Wi-Fi course, scan all Wi-Fis, look for all Wi-Fi signals. Maybe you can find, as a vulnerability scan, maybe find a rogue access point. We talked about that earlier. Rogue not as in malicious, but maybe it's a large company, maybe an office bay in that back corner has bad Wi-Fi coverage, and someone plugged in a Wi-Fi router to their desktop, and they made a little Wi-Fi hotspot that's not IT supported and not secure. So there's some vulnerability scanning can be involved there, and of course definitely recon. Maybe you're given access to the guest Wi-Fi, scan it down. So we're back to the recon phase again. You're back there at recon, do some scanning, see what's available. If a person was staying just outside the office, maybe it's a publicly accessible guest network, pretty bad. Make sure it's part. We have proper subnetting. You can maybe look at DNS hacks, things like that. Is it possible to figure out a default password? If it's even worse, if it's open, it's not subnetted correctly, then yeah, you can definitely do a vulnerability scan and see what is accessible. So anyways, in-person is going to have a lot of different components there, and it's going to heavily depend upon the contract. So if it's not clear, don't be scared to go back and say, we need to be, there's some stuff in the contract that was not clear. We got to have it stated exactly what entails your in-person visit. It could be training. So in any case, think about that, but it's going to involve probably these things here. The physical intrusion part, we'll put that there. That's going to be a huge red flag there. You really need to be careful with that. You find yourself trying to pick locks after hours. You might even say, I have access, even if you have someone sign from the president or someone high-level executive sign saying you, showing your information, your ID information, has been given proper authority to try to intrude, and maybe even give what? Say, I'm going to try to maybe pick the lock of the back door or the front door. I might see what the cameras are covering. So that's all. That's a lot of pre-legwork before we get into that kind of stuff. But the other half of this, social engineering. Again, this might involve some in person. Definitely a lot of recon here, and we're going to talk about that. So phishing, definitely the biggest one here. This is probably the premier way an attacker's going to come in. So analysis of spam caught emails. You can look for a pattern of attack with some almost a forensics look at the set. Are they being targeted, or is there a way I can spear phish or create phishing emails based off what I can gather from the company? And again, this is a huge recon, statement here, right? So gathering information about their website, and we'll look at some of the tools for this here. So this is probably the one thing you want to see. Can I set up an attack? And it could be part of your engagement rules. If not, you can still, even if there's no phishing involved allowed in your statement of work, you could say this information being emitted by your website. Someone could use these different attack vectors within phishing to set up an attack. So you can make them aware, even if you're not going to do it yourself. Tools. All right. So depends on your attack, and it depends how you want to approach this. If you want to set up an attack, Beef is a great one because you can set Beef to hook, set your Beef hook off of set your own Beef server, and put the Beef hook somewhere in a web page that you want someone to click on. And one thing I always thought was a funny one is maybe the client is a public client, and you set up a fake law firm page and send them a copyright notification against them, or pretend to be their host provider with an emergency notification. You want this FUD factor, fear, uncertainty, and doubt when it comes to phishing. You want to remove the person's mindset from thinking about, is this an attack, to, what do you mean copyright notification? What the, click on it, right? And all it takes is that one click. And even if the click happens, you can still put up a fake front. It doesn't mean the page is, you've been hacked. You can put up a copyright, a bunch of mumbo jumbo for copyright. But in the background, you have that initial, example, Beef hook. And you want to use that to gain persistence, and that's a different thing. Or maybe from that initial contact, you can do some scanning and work further in. Beef's only one thing to look at, of course. There are other ways you can use other exploitation frameworks like Metasploit. And we'll look at a big one here, of course, is the Social Engineering Toolkit. So this is a huge tool. Social Engineering Toolkit. This is the Kali tools for it. Here's the GitHub page. They actually have an entire manual you could download. This is a huge tool, and it's actually, I think, one of the labs we walk through. This thing is a fantastic toolkit, and not just you can use it for gathering credentials. So it does play in several of these aspects. It plays in recon, vulnerability assessment, as in some of the social side, and you can set up exploit attacks. There's wireless attack vectors, QR code attack vectors. That's a good one. After you get in is shell and shell automation, set automation. There's a lot of stuff here. Infectious media generator. This is a good one. So it's a tough one. You can actually create a PDF with a rat with a built-in backdoor, maybe like a netcat or something like that. But be aware that endpoint protections are really, if they have good endpoint protection, and maybe you're doing your recon, you figured out the endpoint protection is really well. They have, use them latest version of Windows. They have Windows Defender. You could set up and do a test. If you have a virtual machine with Windows in it, with Windows Defender, you can try to go and test it yourself and see if you can get around their endpoint protection. But to realize if you have if you're delivering media that needs to be automatically opens and kicks off an exploit, you're going to be dealing with endpoint protection. This is where the web is actually a great one here, because the end user sees a web page and they click on something, and by them clicking on it, they're allowing that process to interact. Again, still possible for a modern browser or endpoint protection to circumvent this, but to mitigate this, but you still can look for ways to circumvent the attack. And it takes some homework there, but this is a great place to start. SE Toolkit. Look at this. This is a huge PDF here. Chock full of good stuff here. And there's some examples here. Keystroke capturing. So definitely want to get the information on that. It's a great tool. Get in person. Again, this is a big one. It could be just if you're a site visit. It could be just gathering information from what an attacker might see and might do, up into actually doing that. So it's motivational techniques here. This is great. Again, this is what we're talking about when it comes to social engineering. It's to motivate the end user to do something. Again, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's always a great way to approach it. Or of course, scarcity, limited time only. Or of course, don't forget about the go dropping USB, USB drops. Those are fantastic. A few USBs laying around with a Word document in it, or a document, or some kind of document that's been with using the Social SE Toolkit or some other utility in Kali. You can create some infected documents. Again, but you got to deal with endpoints there. So again, motivation techniques. Think about the motivation behind your social engineering attack. A lot of it could be gaining trust. There could be a preliminary work where you gain trust before you kick off the attack. So it could be within the in-person visit. It could be phone calls, and it could be through emails. And this is going to go and set you up as a non-attacker, someone that you can trust. A client. Client's always great. If you're a prospective client, because they want your trust, you're going to leverage or sort of use that against them. They want you to be to trust them, and in turn, they're going to almost automatically trust you in a lot of ways. It's a great way to sort of get your way in. A couple of benign emails, a couple of phone calls, and then maybe you send in a web page with your maybe a web page with information you want for some development work to be done, and that web page itself might have a beef hook or some other attack vector. So urgency is a big one. Again, that goes with the FUD, but you don't do this quickly, and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and building trust. So think about your motivational techniques if you are doing a full social engineering attack. Physical. So physical, again, now we're talking, physical site visit does not always include the fact you're going to be picking locks middle of the night. It could be just observing. Is it possible to piggyback? Can I follow someone into the door? Will someone hold the door open for me? And this is sort of leveraging on that social engineering attack. Most people want to be nice, and they see someone walking up. Maybe they have a badge, but the badge is turned around. So they assume you're part of the company, and they hold the door for you. But when you get to jumping fences and stuff, be very careful. Then you're getting into dealing with physical security, including possibly a security firm, third-party security firm that is doing the physical security for a company. If that's the case, you got to make sure you work with them one-on-one. Also, they might not be very big on that. So, this is a good one. Dumpster diving. So this is a great one. This is sort of a physical attack, but it doesn't really. It could occur after hours, and it could be going through the trash. Now, if that trash is in a secure area, you might get caught. But sometimes the most secure people will just throw stuff in the trash and roll it out to the curb, and you can get information about a company with that. So, again, lockpicking. A lot of legalities here. I already mentioned this already, so we'll just go past this. Yeah, RFID badges. Is it possible to accept some sort of physical thing? This is a big deal. If you can accept some sort of RFID copier, it's a lot of preliminary work here, but it is possible to see. Is it possible to set up something that when employees come in, you can scan a few badges? So we'll get to the end of the slideshow. Let's talk about the tools, though, we have here. So we talked about beef, definitely a good one. Social engineering toolkit. I can't say more enough about that one. This is the Kali page on it. If you go to their home page, it's trusted sec. You can get information about how to install. If you don't have it installed, you can install it, patch it, and of course there is the user guide, which is a full PDF. Talk about beef already. You can look at information about the beefproject.com there. The passwords. So again, you can download passwords. There's generators here, and it's a big one actually. Is password generators. So, for example, Acme Corp. So maybe the name of the company, name with some things at the end of it. You can use some social engineering, and or just OS and IT gathering. So using your framework here, can I gather usernames from some sites, domain information, email addresses, things like that. So people search engines, of course, and of course you have LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, any of the big social medias that are currently out. Look for public-facing people, marketing executives, marketing managers, so on, that have access to that site's public-facing areas. So it could be a login page there. They probably have logins for that. That would be the place you want to look. Another link you can use, and of course, you can use something like a wordless generator, or you can use something like Cup. Cup is a little Python app that will ask for questions. So a couple go through and you'll give you a set of questions, first name, last name, things like that. And it should create a profile, the birth dates. I know it's really quick there. Yeah, I'm gonna click on that. But it's in GitHub. It's CUPP. It's MEBus. Is the URL for it. It's a fantastic utility. I've used it before. And you can build your own custom password dictionary based on possible passwords. So again, WeakPass has a password generator, which is great to create your own custom passwords. Cup's fantastic. And of course you have this too. You have the Harvester. It's a great utility. It does a lot of passive work. It looks a lot of stuff. There's a lot here. I don't want to go through everything. But there are certain modules that you might need API keys for. So GitHub and so on. But the Harvester itself is a tool that will do a lot of the OS and IT open source intelligence gathering for you. Names, emails, IP addresses, subdomains, URLs made public by a lot of resources. So run this also, but also do it manually, especially I always suggest run the tools, but also in this case, do some manual recon against your target. And it could be on the site itself. If you notice, they have WordPress. There's a WordPress login page. It's always one of the things I go for. It's a great vector. So, in any case, wrap it up here. I think we covered most of it. Social engineering is really going to be the one I would rely on the most. And like for email, phone, phishing, look at those techniques for social engineering. Look at the tools you can use to help gather this information. And again, you think, why are we looking at this now? Sounds like a recon thing. Again, it could be after you walk through, actual scanning of sites. You scan the site down, you get information about your target website, IP, ports, and so on. But you notice there could be certain pages be exposed. Those pages might have logins. You go back to recon. Yes, I'm back to here. You go back to recon, and you look for these more specific things. So recon could be more. It could be more focused after finding some information about. So it could be this little loop here. So the social engineering definitely comes into recon a lot. You're going to be there a lot. So the harvester is a great tool to go leverage that too. And you could run that early during recon also. Even if it doesn't have too much, even if your engagement does not have a phishing, like no phishing allowed, please don't try phishing our employees, you still want to go ahead and expose and say, here's information about your company being exposed that could be used for phishing. So you can go part the way and share that information with your client, and that will help them, maybe help secure it there. So anyways, that wraps up the chapter and the topic, and thanks for watching.